How do you combat low returns? It's certainly been challenging for agriculture. You want yield, you want quality, you also want to be flexible and have adaptability, and we can help with Redox technology. Welcome to the Redox Grows Technical Podcast. I'm Jim Morris with Redox Bio-Nutrients, and joining me today, two of our agronomists in the Western and Pacific Northwest area. Jeff Yoder, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
And Bill Schwoerer, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
So I'd like to start with both of you with, tell me more about the region that you work in geographically, the crops, and also what does adaptability look like to you? Jeff, why don't I start with you?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate in that I get to work with a pretty broad region and a very vast variety of crops. So for Redox, I cover all of Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia, and there's a plethora of crops grown up there in the PNW. So everything from berries and seed potatoes on the coast, processed potatoes, corn, canola, wheat, a variety of seed crops. I work with a little bit of tree fruit, hazelnuts. A lot of things going on, keeps me on my toes.
So you need to be flexible because a lot of different crops, it can vary from one orchard to the other or one field to the other. So what does adaptability, flexibility look like in your world?
Yeah, I think all producers need to be adaptable in order to be profitable year over year. I've been fortunate to have a couple mentors teaching me agronomy, and I remember one of them in particular always said the best thing that you can put on your crop is your shadow. Being in that crop so you can catch things early so you can react to those things. We know that as soon as you see a micronutrient deficiency as visual symptoms on that crop, yield loss has already occurred. So if you can get into that crop and you can catch those things early on your lower producing, your kind of poor soil types, you stand a chance of correcting that issue before it reaches the whole field. And in the last decade or so, we've kind of been hoping for a normal weather year in the PNW. We've been hit with flooding. Right now we're filming this in mid-December, and Northwest Washington is experiencing some very severe flooding. When I left to come here to Burley, Idaho, it was 60 degrees in central Washington in mid-December. That's out of the normal. In the past years, we've had heat domes, we've had wind events, we've had early springs, late springs, early frosts. So we've been dealt about every wild card that Mother Nature can deal us, and being able to react to those situations in season, I think is critical. And I think that plays to the strengths of the Redox product line because we have high efficiency, low rate use products. Where you can get in there and you can get 4 pounds of dicap on your apples 24 hours before a freeze event or 48 hours before a freeze event and protect those blooms and protect your year's yield from that weather event. So I think it's critical for producers to be able to adapt to these changing scenarios.
Jeff is phenomenal. You're phenomenal with customer service and 10 years now at Redox, so congratulations on that milestone. And you have been an individual that I've been leaning on heavily for agronomic knowledge for many years, so thank you for that. And Bill Schwoerer from the Central Coast area, the crops that you work with, and what is being adaptable and flexible look like to you?
Okay, thanks Jim. Yes, I'm Bill Schwoerer. I work with Redox. I've been with Redox for going on 4 years now, and I cover coastal California, and down into the desert. And most of the crops I deal with are fresh produce, specialty ag. We have berries, leafy veg, citrus, avocados, wine grapes, kind of to list a few. Mostly high value, long season. We start harvesting, well, we pretty much have berries being harvested year round. So it's, like I said, pretty intensive market and large grower shippers, and people need to be in basically pretty much every month of the year to supply the major retailers. For us, adaptability is key in that, we have kind of what Jeff was mentioning about weather. We had kind of an unusual event. We had about 10 inches of rain back in October, early November. And then recently we've had a heat snap where we've had days 80 degrees, even going to 90 degrees in some of the production areas, which is so unusually wet early and then unusually warm. And actually hot. So all these things, can have impacts on the crop. And being able to be adaptable or to be able to have the crop being adaptable, I think starts with having resilience and getting the crop off to a good start. Whether it's, most of our crops are transplanted when it comes to berries and leafy veg. So getting that crop off to a really good start is key, because if you don't start with a healthy crop from day one, it's really hard to change that as the course of the season goes on. Once that damage is done, you're going to have a yield drag, quality drag. So really staying up with whether it's the nutrition or early establishment to reduce transplant stress, all those kind of things build throughout the season so that you do have the flexibility to push the crop more at certain times, or if you need to, cut back a little bit. So I think it's just key to get off to that good start.
Okay, and it goes right to the question of roots, having strong, healthy roots. How is that achieved? I'll start with you, Bill, and then Jeff, please comment.
We have a few tools that I think are really, we being Redox have a few tools that are really effective there. A couple of them for establishment are RootRx and Rootex. RootRx is a botanical extract that can help stimulate root growth, kind of helps the plant work through that early stress and get it established well. And Rootex is a very efficient form of phosphorus plus amino acids, so you can help stimulate that root growth early on as well. And then some other issues we have, a lot of our soils have been farmed for many years now, so intensively farmed. So a lot of the carbon has been burned up and utilized with previous crops. So incorporating products like H85 can be really helpful, which is a organic acid, short, medium, and long chain organic acid product, providing soluble carbon. And I think another one that people tend to forget is the importance of calcium. And even though our soil tests often show there's calcium there, having available calcium for that early root development, and then throughout the crop season. So products like Mainstay Calcium 2.0, and as well as Pinnacle is another product that we use that's a calcium plus a soil surfactant that helps to open the soil, improve basically a soil solution movement within the soil and the root zone. So those are a few tools that we like to use to start out.
Jeff, I imagine we have some overlap with products there. Nothing wrong with that. We have a great product portfolio. What are some of your go-tos in the P&W to start off right with good, strong roots?
I think Bill hit the nail on the head. I use the exact same strategy. I do emphasize early season nutrition. Getting a strong foundation of roots underneath that plant, I think, leads to success down the line, season long. And I'm under the agronomic philosophy that the most important pass that you will ever do across your field is when you're dragging your planter behind you. Getting that seed in the right soil temperature, at the right spacing, at the right depth, with the right moisture, with the right nutrition package, really sets you up for success season long. And once that seed is in the ground, you can't go backwards. It's there, your season has started, and you're just trying to prevent yield loss from that point on to harvest. So the soluble nutrition that is in Rootex is a fantastic choice for early season root development. A lot of other phosphorus sources, especially when we're planting early season into cold, wet soils, that phosphorus isn't very available. And when it's combined with the carbon that's in that product, as well as H85, it really helps stimulate all that diversity of microbiology in the soil, leading to better mineralization and better soil structure and better air-water relations. And then just to bring in RootRx, one of my favorite products that Redox offers, the synergy of combining RootRx with the soluble nutrition that's in Rootex, I think goes a long way. It becomes better than the sum of their parts, because the strong biostimulant that's in RootRx stimulates a response. But then we feed that response nutritionally with the nutrition that is in Rootex. So combining the two, plus with a little bit of H85, maybe some Mainstay Calcium or Pinnacle if the situation calls for it, is my go-to starter across a wide variety of crops in the P&W.
So those who aren't fully familiar with Redox technology, one of the awesome attributes is you don't need very much. What are some of the application rates that we're talking about with some of the materials you've mentioned?
My go-to starter is 2 quarts of Rootex flowable, 16 ounces to 1 quart of RootRx, kind of depending on the scenario, and 1 quart of H85 flowable. It doesn't take a lot, especially when you're comparing that to a traditional starter blend of something along 5 to 7 gallons of 1034, maybe with some humic in there or some other, like a micro package, something like that. We can be pretty efficient as far as low use rates, which means you're putting on less with your planter. You can get your planter down to, you kind of want a little bit of water in there, so we're averaging about 5 to 7 gallons of total applied to the acre. So you're filling up less. So you don't have to pull the tractor to the side of the field, fill up. That all goes to boosted efficiency. You're in the field planting longer during that critical time of year. So yeah, the efficiency can lead to economic efficiency as well.
Cost savings with labor, with fuel, it all adds up, particularly in this economy. We're in season now. Bill, you mentioned Mainstay Calcium 2.0, certified biostimulant by the Fertilizer Institute, so that's really awesome. Talk about any other items you want for in-season nutrition, but I would like to mention our up-and-coming shining star. It's already been proven over more than a decade of testing, RDXN. It is a patented product, and nitrogen optimization is the key there, up to 50%. Your thoughts there and how that's helping? I've seen photos from different farms you're working with in the Central Coast. It seems like the adoption is growing.
Yeah, we're working with RDXN quite a bit, as much in trialing as commercial use. And in California, we have some regulations that are coming down the pipe that are probably going to create some pressure for nitrogen use and nitrates. And I think beyond that, the benefits of being able to incorporate a product like RDXN that allows the plant to better metabolize nitrate into amino acids more efficiently is going to reduce that stress on the plant. So what we're seeing is that by using high rates of nitrogen, which most growers do, it's it's been something we've been doing for many years. It's the highest probably of the NPK inputs, the highest units that are applied. Those high units can cause stress in the plant. The plant tends to take it up. It'll store that nitrate. It tends to have weaker cells, and then we see issues in the field from disease, insect pest populations, as well as like with berries, we see soft fruit issues at certain times, and a lot of that can be attributed to high nitrates. By incorporating RDXN, the plant can better metabolize that and creates basically a healthier, more durable crop and plant, and it allows the plant to better process the nitrates.
And no loss of performance, right?
Exactly. In fact, in many cases, we're going with lower units and getting the same production, in some cases even a little better. So whether the grower's trying to reduce nitrogen input units or just trying to have those units more efficiently and more effectively utilized by the plant, RDXN's a really good fit. And kind of going back to the calcium component, and mainstay calcium and calcium in general is really key, I think, throughout the crop cycle, especially when we have long season crops like berries, for instance. We're harvesting strawberries, in some cases, from February through August, so we have a long season. And you're taking a lot of fruit off those plants. And certain times of the year, we'll start to see deficiencies. And I think, like Jeff mentioned, once you see visible deficiencies, crowns that are dying back a little bit, or leaf calyxes on the fruit that are dying back a little bit, once you see those visible symptoms, there's a lot of damage that's already been done because that plant has been starved of calcium. So keeping that in the program on a weekly or every other week basis is really key to make sure you have available calcium for these crops. Especially these long cycling crops. And I think the other point with calcium is we always talk about how calcium's key for cell wall structure, but the other thing I think that's really key is that calcium's a critical signaling element within the plant through calcium channels. So when the plant has a stress event, calcium movement between cells within the plant signals a certain stress and a response. So having good calcium nutrition really pays off.
Yeah, with the technology, less tie-up as well. Jeff, some of your go-tos in the season, I imagine, again, we have some duplication there, but what are some of the areas that you really want to emphasize when you have a crop and it's doing well and then you want to make sure the positive nutrition continues?
Yeah, I'll echo what Bill said. The calcium is absolutely critical, especially for crops that we're going to store. Processed potatoes, when they go to storage, you need a lot of calcium in those to prevent bruise, prevent any internal issues, hollow heart, internal browning, things like that. And to echo what you said earlier about efficiency, for a 40-ton potato crop, the calcium that we apply about 1.5 gallons of Mainstay Calcium 2.0 over the entire season to feed 130 acres, a full circle, 40-ton yield. All that calcium can fit in the back of your pickup.
That's crazy. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive how efficient we can get. And then when you're using those small rates, it's a little more logistics because you want to apply that product as close to plant demand as possible for the best agronomic benefit. So we're applying that in 3 separate shots at a half gallon each. So logistically, it's a little more application, but agronomically and economically, it works out in your favor because you're getting that product applied as close to plant demand, so you're not clogging up the system. You're not having these huge applications early that are messing up our plant charge balance. You're overloading the system with, in calcium's case, cations that are going to tie up with your phosphorus. The microencapsulation technology that's in all of our calcium products prevents that tie up in the soil, so it's plant available. We can use less because it's more efficient. It's getting onto the crop and right into the plant and going to work.
You both have talked about a lot of weather issues lately, and it's amazing in the PNW, all the footage and the challenges there. Brings up abiotic stress. How do you help that with your customers?
Your crop will be under stress every year, guarantee it. There's always something at play that's not going to go perfectly. Even in the Columbia Basin, where I do a lot of my work, where we're blessed with all the water we could ever want out of the Columbia River, we create our own ecosystems with the center pivots. We've got dry growing conditions, warm days, cool nights, about as perfect as you can make it. There's still always going to be stress. And that's where the biostimulant aspect of the Redox products really come into play, is we're helping the plant defend itself. We're giving it the resources it needs to go about the biological processes that the plant already wants to go under. The plant has been dealing with heat and cold and wind and saturated soils for longer than we've been messing with the system. So just supplying the plant the nutrition that it needs in order to better combat that, I think goes a long way, especially when you pair that with the biostimulants. The first one that comes to mind is DiCap. It's got a lot of phenolic compounds in it. It helps the plant produce its own phenolic compounds. We use that one a lot for temperature stress, both hot and cold. You can visually see it on a crop like potatoes. We're in the middle of July, the temperatures get to triple digits. You can kind of see that crop give up in the heat of the day. The canopy tends to start to lean over. You can see it stopped respiring. So it's no longer pulling from the soil solution and putting that into the tubers and bulking and gaining yield. So when we add even just a small amount of 1 to 2 pounds of DiCap to the cropping system in that situation, we're adding soluble potassium, we're adding phenolic compounds, we're helping the plant deal with that heat where it continues respiring throughout the heat of the day. So you're gaining valuable bulking time later in the day when those temperatures are hot, when other crops are starting to give up.
Interesting. Bill, you have some of the weather issues. You mentioned the torrential rain in California, salt buildup as well. So how do you work with growers? What's your go-to there?
Yeah, DiCap's one that we use a lot as well in our crops. We tend to have Santa Ana wind events, high winds and heat, which once again the plant shuts down. And if you can keep that plant transpiring longer, that's going to help the plant continue to produce even through those stress events. So DiCap, RX Platinum is another one. It has DiCap components in it with the synergy of some other biostimulant products. So DiCap and RX Platinum fit well there. And then you mentioned the salinity issues, and we get that typically as the season progresses. We're irrigating, we're fertigating, we don't get rainfall, so we end up having salts, sodium chloride, et cetera, accumulating in that root zone. So if you can keep, once again, that soil solution moving through the root zone, it's really key. That's where products like Pentakel fit really well. Pentakel, the calcium component tends to open the soil, and then the surfactant helps keep moving that soil solution through the root zone so that those salts don't just accumulate in the root zone, it keeps them moving through the profile. So a really good product to help plants when we get into that time of the season, typically July, August, salts tend to accumulate, and you can see that salt stress in the plants.
The soil is crucial in all of this. What is your suggestion there for maintaining or improving soil health?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of cultural things that we do, and really, I mean, because the way we produce our crops, so really there isn't an alternative. We have to till the soil, we have to prepare the beds, and create a really good growing environment. I think the things that we can do to really help are adding soluble carbon. Products like from Redox H85, F70 as a fulvic acid product, and then along with what we talked about earlier with RootRx and Rootex, keeping that soluble carbon in the profile because so much of that carbon's been lost as we till the soil and grow crops repeatedly for many, many years. And then going along with that, products that can help, like I just mentioned with Pinnacle, help to improve the soil physical as well as chemical properties by opening the soil, getting more air and water movement is going to help that crop be able to thrive through some of the stress situations that inevitably we're going to face every season. Because like Jeff said earlier, no season's the same, and there's always some kind of stress going on, whether it's whether it's the salt accumulation, whether it's heat, cold, excess water, or not enough. So there's always some kind of stress going on in the system. Make sure the plant's built or established to be able to weather those stress events.
Our owner, founder, and CEO, Darren, comments a lot about that the plants can't move, so you have to make it as comfortable as you can for them. Jeff, I imagine a lot of the nutrition that we use that helps elsewhere with roots, et cetera, also helps with soil, but do you have an item or two or a comment on the best way to keep soil robust in your region?
Yeah, I think soil health comes down to understanding your soil chemistry, understanding where your native soil wants to be. We've got a vast array of soil types across the West. What we farm mostly in central Washington is a Quincy fine sand, and understanding that can be hydrophobic at certain times. It doesn't want to take water, even though it is a sand. That you do need some calcium in there to help flocculate, to help hold some moisture in the top. But I think as a blanket statement, soluble carbon is one of the most important things you can do for soil health, because there is a vast diversity of microbes in that soil, of living organisms that you need to feed, and all life on Earth is carbon-based life. And the approximate diet of those microbes in the soil is 24 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. And when we're applying a lot of nitrogen to get high yields on all these crops, we're getting that balance out of whack. We need more carbon, not only for the roots and the plant takes a lot of that from the air as CO2 and puts it into structure. 98% of the plant is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, which all comes from the atmosphere. And then that plant will take that carbon as simple sugars and exude it into the roots in order to feed those microbes in the soil. So when we can add soluble carbon to the soil and feed all that biology, we've taken some of that stress off the plant, because now the plant doesn't have to exude its photosynthetic carbohydrates out into the soil to feed that biology. We've done it for the plant. So it's in energy savings. Not only is it good for your soil and your soil health and your soil chemistry, but we're helping influence yield at the end of the day because we're keeping that energy in the plant.
I feel like we could talk for a lot longer. You guys are fantastic, but I want to go back to our main theme here as our final question about being adaptive. So growers are having challenges right now. We obviously can help economically, we can help with sustainability. So if a grower has issues, they want to know more, they want to participate with Redox, but they're a little concerned, how important is it? What would your conversation be, gentlemen, about making them comfortable that we can fit where they're at here and now? I'll start with you, Jeff.
Yeah, we've got a pretty diverse array of products in our toolbox here at Redox. We've got products for a lot of different situations. But as far as being adaptable, you need to fix deficiency symptoms as quick as possible. That goes along with having a good fertility plan from the start of the season. But if things arise, I've seen deficiency symptoms on a corn crop disappear 4 days after an application of Triplex Micro. These products go right to work. They get on the crop, get right into the plant, and go right to work. So having complex and chelated nutrition that's protected from tie-up, where we're putting on low use rates, it's not going to get things out of balance, is critical to being adaptable and kind of rolling with the punches. Seeing what kind of stress events are coming at you and being able to correct those in season in a timely manner.
So, Bill, I've traveled with you in the Central Coast, and I've seen you're looking at the field, you're talking with the growers all the time to make sure you can be adaptive to what their needs are. But how important, how much of a focus is that, particularly for new customers as well as the ones that are the tried and true customers that you have?
I think it's important for all of us to understand the challenges that growers face. I mean, it's a challenging industry, and to be a successful grower, you've got to be able to balance a whole lot of things at any one moment. You've got inputs, you've got labor, you've got water, and you've got a market, and you've got customers. They've got customers they have to satisfy. So I think that it's really key, obviously, to be able to be adaptable within the season. And I think, like going back to what we talked about, I think it's really critical to get off to a strong start, because by getting off to a strong start, that allows you to be able to finish strong as well. And I was at a meeting down in Yuma, Arizona a few weeks ago, and they had a grower panel up on the stage, and they were talking more related to new technologies and adapting new technologies. And the thing that they said that was so critical to them was they're under a lot of pressure to reduce their cost per unit. So they're not looking at necessarily cost per acre, but they want to look at reducing cost per unit, because I felt that was key. And I think going back to what Jeff just was talking about, the efficiency of our products, low rates are very effective. Plants respond very quickly to these products because they are so highly available, and because of the combination of nutrition with biostimulation. These products are great tools to allow growers to be able to adapt in season as well as start out strong, so they can ultimately reduce their cost per unit and deliver high quality to the market and to their customers.
Well, it's great when we can have new folks get on board and understand the rapidly emerging technology, but also for people to understand that we have been in business for over 30 years, so we have a lot of tried and true products, and we can help here and now, even in a tough ag economy. Nice to visit with both of you guys. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Jim.
Yep. Thank you, Jim.
And we hope for a great season ahead for everyone. You can find out more at redoxgrows.com. Thanks for joining us.